The morning sun spilled into our bedroom, but the warmth didn't touch my heart. Elijah stood at the foot of the bed, his hands in his pockets, his eyes as cold as Hamatan wind. Chioma, he said, his voice firm, I can't do this anymore. You've given me 5 daughters, not even one son. I blinked, unsure I heard him right. What are you saying? Mama says it's time I marry someone who can give me a son, he said without a hint of shame. You leave. The girls will stay here. The words stabbed me deeper than any knife. They are my children too, I cried. He turned his back. Go back to your father's house, Chioma. With trembling hands, I packed my bag, each folded cloth feeling like a goodbye. By noon, I was standing by the dusty roadside, staring at the house that once held my laughter, now a place where my heart was no longer welcome. I should have known this day would come. Mama Elijah had never hidden her dislike for me. From the first day I stepped into their home, she would say in her sharp voice, Chioma, a woman's pride is in the son she gives her husband. Daughters are fine, but a son carries the name. At first, Elijah defended me, but after the birth of our third daughter, his tone began to change. By the time I had the fifth, his silence spoke louder than any insult. That morning, Mama Elijah stood at the doorway, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist. I told you, she said, glaring at me. My son cannot waste his life on you. You are only good for producing girls. Her words cut deep. I opened my mouth to speak, but Elijah's voice from behind her stopped me. Mama, she's leaving today. And just like that, my fate was sealed not by strangers, but by the people I once called family. When I stepped outside with my bag, the neighbors' eyes followed me. Some whispered, some pretended not to look. I heard a woman mutter, that's her, the one who couldn't give him a son. My daughters stood at the window, their little faces pressed against the glass. Mama, my youngest cried, her small hand waving desperately. I wanted to run back, scoop them into my arms and never let go. But Elijah's voice came sharp and cold. Go, Chioma. I turned away before my tears could fall in front of them. The dusty road felt endless. Every step away from that house felt like my heart was being pulled out of my chest. I had no idea where I was going, only that I couldn't go back. By evening, I reached my father's house. It had been years since I stayed there. The wooden gate creaked as I pushed it open. My father sat outside, his walking stick by his side. His eyes widened when he saw me. Chioma, what happened? I dropped my bag, and the dam inside me broke. Papa, Elijah sent me away. He said I'm not good enough because I gave him 5 daughters. Papa's eyes darkened. And he left your children behind? I nodded, unable to speak. He shook his head slowly. A man who does not value the mother of his children is not worth her tears. Those words gave me a little strength, but the emptiness in my arms where my children should be was a pain I could not bear. That night, I lay on the old bed in my childhood room. Every shadow on the wall felt like the faces of my daughters calling for me. I clutched my wrapper and cried until my pillow was soaked. How were they sleeping? Were they asking for me? Would Elijah's new wife treat them kindly or see them as burdens? I thought about going back, demanding to take them with me, but what power did I have? In our culture, children often stayed with the father after separation. Still, a fire burned quietly inside me. If Elijah thought he had broken me, he was wrong. I didn't know how, but I would rise again. One day, my daughters would know the truth, and they would be proud of their mother. The days felt long in Papa's compound. I would wake up early, expecting to hear my daughters' voices, but there was only silence. Papa noticed my pale face. Chioma, he said one morning, crying won't bring them here. You must find a way to live again. But how could I? My hands longed to braid their hair, to pack their lunch for school, to hear them call me mama. Sometimes I would walk past their old school just to watch them from afar. I'd hide behind a fence, my heart breaking each time I saw them run into Elijah's car. They never saw me, but I always saw them. One afternoon, I went to the market to help Papa buy foodstuff. As I bargained for tomatoes, a man's voice said, Chioma? I turned and saw a tall man with warm eyes. Do I know you? I asked. It's me, Ossie. We went to secondary school together, he said, smiling. Memories flooded back. He was the quiet, brilliant boy everyone liked. Now, he looked older, stronger, and kinder. We talked for a while. I tried to hide my pain, but he noticed the sadness in my voice. Before leaving, he said softly, If you ever need a friend, I'm here. Days later, Osi came to Papa's house with a bag of groceries. I was passing by. Thought you might need these, he said. At first, I felt shy, accepting his help, but his gentle presence made me relax. We sat under the mango tree, talking about old times. For the first time in weeks, I laughed a small laugh, but real. Papa watched from a distance, smiling to himself. I didn't notice then, but maybe he saw something I didn't. Just as life started to feel lighter, news came from the city. A neighbor whispered to Papa, Mama Elijah is telling everyone Chioma is a cheater, that she was caught on bed with another man. My blood boiled. She wasn't satisfied with throwing me out. Now she wanted to destroy my name. Papa told me, Ignore them. Truth will always outlive lies. But in my heart, I promised myself one day the truth would stand tall, and everyone who shamed me would regret it. One evening, Ossie stopped by again. Chioma, I know you've been through a lot, but there's something I want to ask, he began. I froze. What is it? I'm opening a small restaurant in town. I've seen how well you cook. Would you help me run it? My first instinct was to say no. I was scared of starting over. But then I remembered Papa's words. You must find a way to live again. I took a deep breath. Yes, Ossie, I'll do it. And just like that, a tiny seed of hope began to grow. The restaurant was small, but full of life. Every morning, I tied my wrapper, rolled up my sleeves, and poured my heart into cooking. Customers loved my food, pepper soup, jollof rice, and fresh fish stew. Osi handled the business side, I handled the kitchen. Soon, word spread. People started calling me Madam Chioma Pepper Soup. One evening, Osi smiled and said, Chioma, you've brought this place to life. I smiled back, and for the first time since leaving Elijah's house, I felt useful again. News traveled fast. A customer who knew Elijah came to eat at the restaurant. Between bites of rice, he said, Your ex, husband's new wife, she's been giving him trouble. No son yet. I felt no joy in hearing it, but part of me whispered, God is watching. That night, I prayed, not for revenge, but for strength to keep moving forward. One Saturday morning, I was arranging vegetables when I heard a familiar voice scream, Mama! I turned, and there they were, all 5 of my girls, running toward me. Elijah had traveled, and a kind neighbor had brought them to see me. I dropped everything and hugged them so tightly, I thought my heart would burst. We sat in the restaurant, eating and laughing. For a few hours, I felt whole again. But when it was time for them to leave, I fought back tears. One day, I promised myself, we will never be apart again. Weeks later, news came like harmattan wind. Elijah's business was collapsing. His new wife had taken a huge sum of money and vanished. Mama Elijah was seen going from house to house, begging for help. I listened quietly as the market women gossiped, my face calm. Inside, I felt only one thing, God's justice moves without noise. One evening, Ossie and I were locking up the restaurant when he said, Chioma, I've seen your strength. You've turned pain into something beautiful. I respect you. I smiled, unsure where this was going. He continued, I know it's soon, but I would like to walk this life with you, not to replace your children's father, but to give you the love you deserve. My heart raced. I wasn't ready to answer, but I couldn't ignore the warmth his words left behind. It was a rainy evening when I saw him, Elijah, standing outside the restaurant, drenched, his clothes wrinkled. Chioma, please, can we talk? He said, his voice trembling. I wanted to ignore him, but old wounds pulled me back. We sat at a corner table. I was wrong, he began. My wife left me. I have nothing. Please, take me back. I stared at him, memories flooding in the night. He threw me out, the cries of my daughters. My hands trembled, but my voice was steady. Elijah, the door you closed on me will never open again. 2 days later, Mama Elijah came herself, wearing a faded wrapper. Chioma, forgive us. We need you. The children need stability. I looked at her, remembering how she once called me useless. Mama, I said softly, I have forgiven you in my heart, but going back is not an option. Her eyes filled with tears, but I knew they weren't from love, they were from loss. That night, I sat under the mango tree at Papa's house, thinking about Osi's words. He had been patient, never pushing. He saw me as more than the pain I had lived through. When he came by the next day, I looked into his eyes. Osi, I said, if we do this, it will be slow. My heart has scars. He smiled. I'll walk at your pace, Chioma. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Months later, after long talks and some legal help from Osi's friend, I gained custody of my daughters. The day they moved in with me was pure joy. Laughter in the kitchen, tiny feet running around, the smell of stew filling the air. Osi helped with homework. Papa told stories at night, and my home felt alive again. 1 year later, the restaurant had grown into 2 branches. Osi and I married in a quiet ceremony, with my daughters by my side. I heard Elijah was now working small jobs to survive. Some expected me to laugh. My victory was not in his downfall, it was in my rise. As I stood in the restaurant one evening, watching my daughters serve smiling customers, I whispered to myself, the woman they threw away became the woman they could never forget. One afternoon, I was arranging the counter at the restaurant when a familiar face walked in. It was Amaka, the woman Elijah had left me for. She looked nothing like before her makeup was gone, her eyes swollen from tears. She walked up slowly and said, Chioma, please, I need to speak to you. I crossed my arms but listened. I didn't know Elijah's true character, she said, her voice shaking. I thought I was winning, but I was wrong. I didn't mean to ruin your marriage. I'm sorry. For a moment, I saw the younger version of myself, a woman who believed lies. My heart softened. I forgive you, Amaka, I said quietly. We all make choices we regret. She cried, thanked me, and left. That same week, Elijah came to see the girls. Kneeling before them, he said, I never meant to separate us. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me. The girls looked at me. I nodded, and they hugged him. Life was good in our home, laughter every day, love in every corner. Osi and I walked side by side, and the girls were thriving in school. Exactly 1 year later, I gave birth to a beautiful set of twin boys. Osi held my hand, his eyes wet with joy. We'll name them Destiny and Praise, he said, smiling. The girls danced around the hospital bed, kissing their baby brothers. Papa prayed over them, his voice breaking with emotion. As I looked at my family, my daughters, my husband, my newborn sons, I knew my life had come full circle. The woman they thought was broken was now more blessed than she had ever imagined. Never measure a woman's worth by the gender of her children. Life is not built on the number of sons or daughters you have. It is built on love, respect, and unity. Elijah's pride and his family's obsession with his son blinded them to the treasure they already had in Chioma and their daughters. By the time they realized their mistake, she had built a life far better than the one they threw away. This story is a reminder that God's justice is silent, but sure, those who despise you today may one day seek your forgiveness. And sometimes, true victory is not in revenge, but in rising so high that those who broke you can only watch in awe. Above all, cherish the people who stand by you when life is hard, because when they are gone, you may never find that kind of love again. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories about love, family, and life lessons. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.